Thank you so much for coming. This has been one of the craziest experiences of my professional career. I want to give a few thanks. This is probably the single exhibition that we've had the most multiple hands in. It actually took an army of people to make this possible, so I'm going to have a really quick list of people that I want to thank. The first, who is sitting up in the very front row, from day one, Dr. Robert Palazzo, Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences, has been supportive of this project. When we pitched this idea to him, he, without hesitation, supported it, and just really would not have been possible without him. The UAB Department of Art and Art History, Lauren Lake and Jared Ragland, who also from day one were very supportive of the project and have actually sort of been supportive in a way that they really didn't need to be, and so we're actually really grateful that they were just so great these last 3 months. Bob's staff in the Dean's office, Julie Keith, Shannon Robinson, and Shannon Thomason, Brett Levine, who actually teaches here part-time, wrote an amazing article in this month's issue of B Metro magazine, which we're really thankful for. If you pick up a copy of this month's B Metro, it has a really great article. Adam Sturmer at the Alice Stevens Center, who's responsible for the lighting effects that you're going to see tonight. He's actually been a tremendous help. One of the really big surprises for me was Jessica's friend, Gilberto Castillo, who is the musician who composed and performed the score that you hear outside. We have been completely bowled over with, I mean, it's been playing nonstop in AEIVA for the last like 3 days, ever since he sent it to us. And so we love it so much, we've actually already begun talks with a press about releasing the score on vinyl. So we're going to have that pressed and release a limited edition recording of the score like sometime next year. So stay tuned for details about that. When we started the project, we knew that we wanted the educational component to be very important. So we created an entire class around this project. Jessica had 5 students who basically served as her studio assistants. So we'd have class 1 day a week where Jessica would give presentations to kind of create a contextual framework for the piece, her influences, also helping them sort of start to think about their own conceptual framework for their own personal work. But then the rest of the week they sort of acted as her studio assistants. So at any given time, Jessica was here 6 days a week with at least 2 or 3 students at any given time. And that's about the amount of effort that it took to create this piece. And that, we started January 9th. Picked her up from the airport, she literally started working that day. So those students are James Clay, Camille Collette, Alex Cullick, Augusta McEwen, and Alex Whitehead. We also had a handful of UAB student volunteers who actually were not benefiting in any way as far as like school credit or anything like that, that just happened to want to volunteer their time because they thought the project was really cool and interesting. And those people are Ellen Besh, Seema Kadini, right? Did I say that? Is Seema in here?
Nope.
Okay. Sarah Lee, Julia Owen, Jacob Phillips, and Allison Warren. We also have our AEIVA interns, Zachary Edison and Megan Hicks, who also worked on the project, as well as our AEIVA staff, Christina McClellan and Samantha Roberts. And then last and not least, we want to thank AEIVA's generous members. All of our exhibitions and programming we like to keep free and open to the public. It's something that Lisa felt really strongly about, something I feel really strongly about. So if on your way out, if you're interested in becoming a member of AEIVA, these little brochures are out there and you're welcome to pick one up. So this project started over 2 years ago. It was actually one of the earliest conversations that Lisa Tamiris Becker and I had. She sent me a link to Jessica Angel's website, and we both had the exact same sort of reaction about the space, like what would Jessica Angel do if we turned her loose in the very unique interior architectural space that is AEIVA. We brought Jessica out to give a lecture to gauge her interest, let her see the space, but then also to gauge your interest, to see if enough people would be interested in her doing this type of project. We had a really great response, and so here we are. 2 years later, after many proposals submitted, we landed on one that we really, really loved. and we've been working on this project for 3 months now. So most of you have already met and interacted with Jessica at this point, but just a little very brief recap on Jessica's background. Colombian born and Brooklyn based. Jessica recently completed a Studios at Mass MoCA artist residency and a solo exhibition at the School of Visual Arts CP Project Space in New York. While living in New York, Angel was nominated for the World Technology Award in the Arts category in 2014 and was invited to represent Colombia as an artist in residency at the 2014 Vancouver Biennale. She was awarded the Teaching Artist Residency at the Cooper Union, as well as the BRIC Media Arts Fellowship in 2012. She participated in City Walls with the Brooklyn Arts Council in 2010 and was the BOFO Artist in Residence in 2009. I'm so pleased to be able to have Jessica here tonight. The last 3 months have been a total blast, and you have sort of become the honorary 4th AEIVA staff member. So I'm just going to turn it over to you. So please give a round of applause for Jessica Engel.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. I was just saying before, you are the last part of the work. We finished up, but now that you're here, it is finished. So thank you for being here to finish the work. The human presence is absolutely important inside the space and inside the work. So you are part of it. So John already thanked most of the people I wanted to thank, but I'm going to kind of go over that. I want to thank the dean, Robert Palazzo. I know that Lisa Tamiris-Becker talked to him after she talked to me, and we were really eager to hear from him. So it's really great that Robert supported this project. I want to thank Lauren. She is the chair of the Department of Art and Art History. When I came 2 years ago to do my lecture, she walked me around the school, the facilities, and I got to see pretty much everything that the students do here, and she was really, really generous, offering pretty much everything. So this residency here is kind of like heaven for an artist. I have full access to the sculpture department, printmaking. Like, she literally opened the doors for me to use anything I wanted. So that's absolutely amazing. So I want to thank her for that. I want to thank the staff members of AEIVA, of the Department of Art and Art History, teachers, professors, everybody here were really nice. I know that the project, 3 months in the making, is something that, you know, just taking over the whole space was kind of messy in a way. We were scissor lift up and down. So everybody was very patient and welcoming. So I very much appreciate that. My group of students, my hyper team, they're really amazing. It was a great experience for me to work with them. I really learned a lot as well. Being every Monday here, bringing all my ideas, putting everything together was something that really brought me to really think about what I'm doing and how I'm doing it and why I'm doing it and why is it important and how the ideas that I'm researching and the things that I'm interested in can have an impact on other people. So it is a really great window for me to spread what I've been doing for years and what I've been researching. So it's really great to think of art, not just the final process, the final product, but the process and the ideas behind it as some sort of a wheel turning that can lead to other places that are not just in my hands. So I see myself in a way as taking influence from a lot of people and a lot of even, you know, throughout the human knowledge, since writing exists, we have been just going over revising the past and revising others to do and to make. So thinking about my work and my research as something that can lead others to make and take, it's really a wonderful thing to think about. So the BFA students, I'm going to say their names again. James Clay, Camille Goulet, Alex Kulik, Augusta McEwen, and Alex Whitehead. They're all here. Can you guys raise your hands? Or maybe I'll introduce you. You guys, yay, Alex. So yes, I see hands here. I'm going to put on their shirts a little color, so you guys feel free to talk to them and ask them questions. So they're here to be part of this and talk to you as well, okay? So they're going to have like vinyl marks. Then my beautiful interns, Ellen Bash, Seema Kademi, Sarah Lee, Allison Warren, Julia Owen, and Jacob Phillips. They didn't make it to the class because it had other requirements. So they had to be senior students, and some of them are not. So they still wanted to do it without the credit. It's just really awesome. So I had a lot of fun with them, with you. So thank you so much for being part of this project. Okay, so I want to start by showing you the different stages of this project, where I started, the ideas behind it. I do not want you guys to feel like you have to read the work in the way that I'm presenting it. I actually want to encourage you to bring your own associations and read it in the way you want. Okay, so what I'm showing you is not a guide for you to see the work. It's just for you to see what is behind it, what is my way of thinking, what's going on in my mind, in my brain. So don't take it as that I'm like imposing anything on your way of perceiving. So it's called Facing the Hyperstructure. It's a huge scale installation. I think we covered about 9,000 square feet. It has an education component, and it has the public programming component. You're going to find on the front desk some brochures with the public programming schedule. It's 6 different events that I put together that are happening after we open. So the first one of them is next week, April 7th. And it's a collaboration with Laura Usiskin, who is in the music department, and she invited some composers, local composers from BAMA, Birmingham Arts and Music Association, to talk to me, to go around the ideas, and to create sound music inspired by the work, which is very honoring. All right? So you guys are invited. It's free. So the work, in a way, proposes different kinds of interaction, not just with the students, but with the community. So my first slide, this is a really beautiful image. It's called the 2-mass redshift survey. What this is a map of the nearby galaxies, and you can see color codes. You can see the yellow ones, the blue ones, and so on. Redshift is a word used in science, in astrophysics, in cosmology, the largest scales of the universe. And it has to do with light in a very special way. And I'm really interested in this idea of redshift. What is redshift about? It has to do with the wavelength of light and how light moves across space. You can see that space is a really important thing in this project. So it kind of works as a Doppler effect. So when light is coming towards you, the wave of light, it's shrinking. So the wavelength is changing, meaning that the color is going to be perceived differently than when it was released from the source. So this map and the color coding has to do with the movement of the galaxies. The ones that are getting closer to us are projected in blue. The ones that are getting farther away are red. Red in the color spectrum has a greater wavelength. Blue has a narrower wavelength. So I'm thinking of color in this project as light, in that sense, that it is wavelength. So I started just doing some drawings that have to do with the motion. Obviously, art is not about the facts. This is really not portraying anything that is provable, but it has to do with the feeling that I get from these ideas, the feeling of motion, the feeling of the vastness of space. So you can see the color coding in the motion of these galaxies. I'm interested in astrophysics, not so much in the closer things like the solar system or the things that are our galaxy. I'm not that much interested in that. I'm interested in fundamental, almost metaphysical questions, like what is the beginning of everything, you know? So that's pretty intense. It is very, yeah, I would say it's hard, but once you get in that mood, you can go a little further and a little farther, and you're just like always in the edge. So this is a map, another map. It's not the same one I showed you before. It's related. It's not the two maps. This is called the Planck map. It was called the W map. It was called the Kobe map before. So between 1989, you can see 1993, this was the first rendering. What is this map? In 1962, two scientists in Bell's lab in New Jersey, they had this antenna, huge kind of funny looking antenna, and they were developing systems of communication, satellite communication. And they created the antenna, and then they started using it for the first time, and they found this kind of noise, like white noise in the antenna. And anywhere they would direct the antenna, they would get the same noise. So they thought it was like pigeon droppings or something like that. Or like, what the hell is that noise? They cleaned it up, and the noise was still there. At the same time, other scientists were trying to find out what the beginning of the Big Bang would look like in terms of wavelength from the Earth. It was kind of like those serendipities or something, like those two people from total different places were trying to find out, well, Pence's and I don't remember the other name, they kind of found it without wanting to, while the other people were just like, I don't remember their names either right now. But anyway, so this is the story. They happened to hear that there was this background noise left after the Big Bang because of the papers that were being written at the same time. And they got together and found out that that sound was actually capturing what is called the cosmic microwave background radiation, okay? The CMB. So once it was found, they sent the Kobe satellite just to detect microwaves and try to map this noise. What is this noise about? And they had this first image, which doesn't have that much resolution now that we know that we have this one. But they were still very interested that there's differences in temperature in this Kelvin. They measured in Kelvin degrees, the temperature. Then they sent the W map, and now they sent the Planck map. They're sending a new satellite. It's the James Webb. Does anybody know about the James Webb? It's going to be released in 2018. It's this huge telescope, but it's not seeing visible light. Okay, it's seeing infrared. So we will be able to see more. So this map will be updated next year. So what I'm interested in here is that the different temperatures that you find in this first light, this first noise, somehow match where the galaxies are now. This map is 13 billion years old, okay? So it's like the first light that we can see. There's no way for us to see any light further than that because light didn't exist. It didn't exist because the matter light comes from electrons losing energy, and there was so much energy, there was no electrons losing energy, so light did not exist. So this is the first light. And these are the different motions of the galaxies. So all these, I'm just interested because they're really beautiful, to be honest. I'm like, this is so cool. I have to find out more about it. I just feel drawn to it. So that's what's made me find out more about it. So I came up with this design that you can see outside. And it's interesting because it's showing the pixels. And in the W map and in the Planck map, you can see how we color code, how we perceive the universe or anything that we want to work with. We're using our computers. So as a result, we're pretty much getting computer-like renderings. There's just no way out of it. So I created this map trying to play around with the pixels as forces that have to do with the outer universe. So when you go outside and you see all these pixels, I wanted them to be in the higher parts of the design because I want to enhance kind of our perception of looking up. So I have again here this. Everybody kind of knows this map, and this one is actually really generous when it comes to giving some space to the visible light. Actually, if you think of the whole spectrum, the visible light is just the blue line or less. So there's all this information coming in light, and we only perceive a very, very narrow segment of it. And that actually makes me think about, what if we had other senses? You know, everything that we see around us is very limited if we think about it. We can enjoy it very much, but it is pretty limited. And then when you see goes to the 10 minus 5 or 10 to the third, this wave is like going from the Earth to Pluto. And this is to the atomic level. So these kind of opposite sizes, we see the minute and the large and the vast. You can see it everywhere in the atoms. You can see it in even thoughts, ideas, everything you will find from atomic level, minimum, minuscule, to incredibly large. So I see like, oh wow, this wavelength is the size of the atoms. That's pretty cool. Really interesting. So this sort of digging, trying to understand and learn a little bit more about this and how light travels through space. And then I have to learn a little bit about Einstein here, huh? I have to learn a little bit about how space curls and bends and folds, right? So this drawing has to do with the understanding of Euclidean and non-Euclidean space. So we all learned in school that two parallel lines never meet, right? And I think they're still teaching that. Yeah. So, and Euclid is 300 AC. Actually, with my students, I was sharing with them, the Elements, Euclid's book, is the most popular book in history. Like, the Bible is the second one, you know. So it is a serious deal. So I'm trying to juxtapose here. And throughout my work, maybe unconsciously, I'm juxtaposing opposites. And I'm not trying to say that everything is made out of two opposites, but I'm trying to think about the gradients between opposites and the endless possibilities between opposites, the infinity within those two opposites. The concept of infinity is something that I'm really drawn to, just as I was saying before. Just thinking about the beginning of everything is a question that leads you to infinity. So with this drawing, I'm trying to juxtapose the grid, the Cartesian plane, against curved space. Non-Euclidean space was confirmed after Einstein's theory of relativity and the theory of space-time, and the idea that space is a fabric that can fold and bend, and it's almost physical. Almost, no, truly physical. So these are some of the drawings that I did to make my proposal for Lisa and for John. And this is, for example, just an approximation of the gallery concourse, which is a corridor that takes you towards where the studio space is. So this is the floor. I was thinking about the floor and the wall. And then I was trying to think about how to play with curved space in order to play with that corridor. That was the first part that we developed during the project. And it's the part that has the windows. So I really wanted to create a high impact there to draw people into the museum and to have the window towards the work. And then this has to do with understanding curved space and thinking about the idea of infinity. And again, what I was saying before, I have this circle, and then I have this other circle. This is actually an infinity sign. And then, but the infinity that I found here is there's always the possibility of a line within the circle, and another line inside the line, and another line inside the line, which is really interesting because when I make myself the question about the universe being infinite, I think we all kind of fall into, okay, I can just go straight and straight ahead and straight ahead, and then what? Right? It's mind, and then more and more and more and more. But then it seems like the question, the idea turns into space is curved. And then so you go on and on and on. Well, you're going to start kind of moving in a bounded area where you reach your starting point. So infinity may be possible within a bounded space if we think of space as curved. So that problem of going more and more somehow resolves. These are just some images of that understanding of space as a fabric. But it's not just a fabric that is two-dimensional like we could think of a sheet of paper, but it is a three-dimensional fabric. And then with Einstein's theory of gravity that pulls that mesh in, I have my laser pointer, I let it fall. And what's happening is that it's just the shape of the space. That's it. I'm just letting my object follow the shape of space. So, and again, to think about light. And this is really interesting to think about how light is what reveals that the space actually bends. Right? That was Einstein's, you probably know Einstein's big experiment. That's how everyone was like, he's right. When he proved when the solar eclipse that actually Earth, the sun's light was being bent because of the massive object in between. So it's really interesting. And when we think about waves and how we understand the universe, all we know until recently is just from light. But now we have gravitational waves, which are amazing, and it expands a new way of knowledge. Probably everybody heard about it. It was a big deal a year or two ago. So just thinking about how we can learn so much without actually traveling is really interesting. I find it really, really just blows my mind. So thinking of space as a flexible, bendable sheet, or not sheet, three-dimensional fabric. So again, going back to the work, these are some of the first drafts, as John was telling you, 2 years of going back and forth, proposals, how about we go this way, how about we go that way. These were my initial sketches for this project. How to try to work with the floor. This building, designed by architect Randall Stout, it has a lot of areas that are fabric. All this white that you see all this is fabric. And some parts in the lecture hall, they're fabric. And that's made for controlling the sound, the noise inside the building. And that was one of the challenges, to be honest. It was hard to think about, oh, yes, I want to bend the space, but I can't touch this part. So that was a challenging part, to come up with a design that would flow with the building without making it obvious that I can't touch those parts. I shouldn't be telling you this, though. So again, just from the beginning of the proposal, the idea of trying to play with the opposites, and I think the final result solves that dichotomy into bringing the gradient. So I have the completely curved space on one end. If you see this, actually this drawing, what it is this is the floor of the lecture hall. This square that you see here is this door back here. So we don't see the design of this area. This is where my studio space is. And these are the other two galleries. This is the floor, this is the wall. This drawing, you could put it in my maquette. I created a scale model of a building. I started from Randall Stout's original blueprints. And once I had my 3D model, I created this sort of dresses. I felt like, oh, I'm dressing the building now, you know? And then I would just change them and play around and see which one I liked. So this was one of the dresses. And then this was the opposite. This was inspired by Super Studio, 1960s architects who created really bold, minimalistic projects, idealistic projects, futuristic projects that were based in the idea of the square and the cube. Comes from minimalism as well, and the idea of Euclidean space. Two parallel lines never meet. So how do I make a transition from here to here is what you see outside. So what's happening outside is that I start from curved space, and then I blend it into a Euclidean grid inside in the hall lobby to go to the pixels that are just perfect squares. So the dynamics, as you move around, you're going to see that they go from curved space to grid. They go from circles to squares, and trying to find the array of possibilities in between, which is this. So this was the final design, the final proposal. And I wanted to give, obviously, my studios a certain special place. I see the studio as the hub where the interaction happens with the students, where I have my books, I get to read, I get to see my videos, perhaps play some movies and music, and then from there, the installation starts a dialogue with the building. Again, the juxtapositions I was telling you about have to do with color and black and white. So this is the model, dressed up, all fancy. We have this section. So we are in the lecture hall right now. And the space of the studio is here. So I created the model in this mobile way where I could open it up and close it and see it around and show it to people, because the building is intricate, which was also one of the challenges. So what we see here is the dialogue, the dynamics between the spaces. This is how the installation is right now. So through the studio space, I created this kind of tunnel that is on the other side of the wall. Kind of opens up into this area. You can see it here. And then this is one of the images that triggered that approach. It's called the Klein bottle. And it has to do with four-dimensional objects. My lecture 2 years ago, right in the same podium, was about multidimensional space. So I brought some of my research regarding multidimensional space, so I'm not going to go too deep on it. But it has to do with, everybody's heard about, oh, the fourth dimension, it's kind of a trendy subject. But why is it trendy? It is trendy because science and physics is needing that space. So Einstein took three-dimensional space, our mesh, three-dimensional mesh, for gravity to be communicated between objects. But then what happens? We have in the minimum minuscule scale of atoms the same sort of relationships, but they're electromagnetic. They're not gravity. So what happens is, oh, Einstein took over three-dimensional space to explore or to prove the idea of gravity going from A place to B place. What kind of space is there for electromagnetism flow through? That is why fourth-dimensional space is so needed right now, because what is that space, right? And we saw the wavelength. We see X-rays, gamma rays to be really, really sharp to the level and the size of atoms. So there are things, pretty much everything, on both sides of the size spectrum, right? So the proposal that Kaluza made in the 40s that is being taken now into consideration after it was left aside for a while is that this fourth-dimensional space takes place in the three-dimensional space, but in curled teeny dimensions all throughout space. So we can't access it because we're too big, but it happens in a really teeny, teeny way. And it makes sense when you think about it, when you think about other dimensions, second dimension, third dimension. I'm not going to go too deep on it. The whole idea is that this object is fourth-dimensional object, so it moves around within itself. What we're seeing here is just a projection of it. Like I have this bottle, and well, I can't reach, but I project it here, right? And I see a projection of the bottle. But if I move it here, it looks totally different, right? It looks like a circle. It doesn't look like a cylinder. So what I'm seeing here is just a projection of this fourth-dimensional object. It's a complex subject, but just to put it out there. So the tunnel is inspired by the Klein bottle. And also, obviously, by black holes and by wormholes. So since space is this fabric that we can fold and bend and move and play with, well, I have one place in space here and the other one that is so far away. But if it's movable and bendable, well, I can just bring it close together and get there, right? So that's part of the inspiration as well. there's another branch that has to do with networks, and it has a really strong presence in the project. And it goes like this. I'm not going to walk you too much. It goes like this. We think of space. Oh, it's already there. It feels like it's a priori. But how about we think of space being the result of something that grows, right? And what makes space grow? Let's think of space for a second in a different way. I have 1 terabyte of space here. What space is that? Is that space? I think it is. I have an idea and I'm thinking about something. I feel like that is very spatial. Spatial, see, that's the word, right? So what is space? Can anybody say something about space? Anybody dares to say something? No? You do. No? So I think about this, and then is space a priori, or there's something before space? And then my reasoning tells me what creates space is connections and structuring. So let's say I don't know anything. There's a baby who has no connections in his or her brain. And that mental space starts to grow as the baby starts making associations, and then us, or students, reading books, making connections, and then we become wise, and we create a large mental space. So I may change my mind, but right now I feel like space is the aftermath of the creation of connections. So this is a little drawing I did to kind of play around that idea of space as in that sense. And this is a drawing that is inside my studio, and it has to do with Randall Stout in the center, who created this building, and who are the people that he perhaps was looking after. Zaha Hadid, Frank Lloyd Wright, Frank Gehry. The creation of mental space. This is the same. These are the people I've been reading about: Einstein, Kaluza, Brian Greene, Klein, and they're all connected, creating a meta mental space. And then this is a map of the internet that pretty much looks like a map of the brain's connections. And then there's this. The brain cell has the same shape of almost the connections in the universe in its largest scale. So it seems almost like everything we perceive, it's a mirroring, a reflection of our senses. And these are different sizes. This is the largest simulation of the universe to be a network. So what you see here, each one of these is a galaxy. As I was telling you, I'm interested in cosmology. In cosmology, the smallest element of study is a galaxy. And then again, back to the work. What are these major connections between universal forces that are, in a way, a network? This is a piece of work that I did that has to do with the map that I showed you before. And you can see another view. So now I'm going to go a little bit into my past work, so you see where I come from, and then you can go and take a look at the work yourselves. This is another piece I did at the planetarium in Bogota, where I'm from, and it has to do with the pixels. I'm thinking of them as that Planck map that I showed you, the cosmic microwave background radiation. And this is an exercise that's called stereographic projection, that is understanding flat space from the three-dimensional perspective, which is the dome. This is the exercise. It's called stereographic projection. It's really interesting. This is another work I did last year, and it has to do with the same ideas. This is 2014, and this has to do with trying to bring elements like little computer kind of integrated circuit elements into the idea of a black hole, for example. Just like bringing one thing, juxtaposing it to the other one. Other works from before, where I'm playing with up, up, and down, in mirroring of perception. And then this is a really beautiful image. I want to close with this image because it shows that our perception is a unique point of view. It's the world around us and the way we perceive, it's a projection. We are perceiving a unique projection from our point of view. So I invite you guys, everybody, to go around. Think about this model when you look around. And I hope you enjoy your time here tonight. We are going to listen to Gilberto Castillo's music, who is a person who's worked with me for 9 years making sound, and I think it's really phenomenal. So thank you so much, and let's enjoy the night. Thank you.